Welcome to my channel. What if the person you feared most wasn't a stranger in the dark, but someone inside your own home? Someone you fed, cared for, and trusted? This is the tragic story of Linda Bailey Brown, shot in her sleep, and the shocking twist. The alleged killer was her 14-year-old stepdaughter, Cinnamon Brown. But as police dug deeper, they uncovered a web of lies, manipulation, and betrayal that no one saw coming. It all started at 3 a.m. on March 19, 1985, in Garden Grove, California. A man named David Brown called the police. He said, "I think my wife's been shot. She's in the bedroom, but I'm too scared to look." Officer Daryl Halligan arrived at the home and was greeted by a distraught David, trembling and crying. Behind him stood his sister-in-law, Patty, holding a baby, Crystal, the daughter of David and Linda. Both Patty and the infant were crying. Inside the bedroom was 23-year-old Linda Bailey Brown. She lay motionless on the bed, drenched in blood. She had been shot twice in the chest, with blood pooling from her mouth. A .38 caliber revolver was found on the carpet beside her. Officer Halligan checked for a pulse. Linda's body was still warm, faint breaths struggling to leave her body. He placed his ear to her mouth, hoping to catch even a whisper of life. But the blood, the silence, the horror. It was too late. Linda was rushed to the hospital, but the damage was too severe. She was pronounced dead at 4:26 a.m. From the start, police weren't chasing a mystery. They already had a name: Cinnamon Brown, 14 years old. David's daughter from a previous marriage. Both David and Patty claimed Cinnamon had done it, shot Linda, and then ran off into the night. But why would a teenage girl murder her stepmother? David told police that he wasn't home when it happened. He said he had gone for a late-night drive to clear his mind after a disagreement with Linda. Meanwhile, Patty said she had been at home, and even claimed Cinnamon had first pointed the gun at her. Investigators couldn't ignore how strange the household was. David, 36, was married to a 23-year-old. His daughter Cinnamon lived with them, as did his teenage sister-in-law Patty. They all lived under one roof, and the relationships were complicated. Cinnamon, according to David, had always been troubled, moody, hard to control, depressed, prone to sudden outbursts. She didn't get along with Linda. Fights were frequent, tension constant. Things got so bad that Cinnamon was eventually moved out of her bedroom and into a trailer in the backyard. But even that wasn't enough. Patty told police something strange. She said that just days before the murder, Cinnamon had approached Patty, asking for help, with a gun. She said she wanted to learn how to use it, to protect herself, she claimed. Patty, believing Cinnamon's fear was real, taught her how. Hours later, Patty awoke to the sound of a gunshot. Cinnamon stood over her, holding that same gun. Patty froze. The gun had apparently misfired or missed. Seconds later, Cinnamon left the room. More shots rang out. When Patty got up and went to comfort baby Crystal, she said she saw Cinnamon slip out the back door. A manhunt began. Police issued a warning to the public. A young girl, armed and dangerous, was on the loose. But Cinnamon didn't get far. Later that day, officers noticed one of the dog houses behind the Brown residence had an unusual amount of barking nearby. Inside, they found Cinnamon, shivering, soaked in urine and vomit, clutching a letter that read, "Dear God, please forgive me. I didn't mean to hurt her." She had overdosed on pills, barely alive. At the hospital, she drifted in and out of consciousness for 3 days. Doctors weren't sure if she'd survive, but somehow she did. Cinnamon was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. In court, she claimed to remember nothing, no motive, no explanation. But her fingerprints were on the gun, the suicide note was in her handwriting, and both David and Patty insisted she was responsible. She was convicted and sentenced to 27 years in juvenile detention. A child, locked away for killing her stepmother. But here's the thing. Cinnamon wasn't the real monster in this story. Not even close. The real story began to unravel years later, when Cinnamon, still behind bars, finally began to talk. What she revealed was worse than anyone imagined. David Brown, her own father, had manipulated her into committing the murder. He had convinced her that Linda was dangerous, that killing her was the only way to protect the family. He fed her lies, promised her that everything would be okay, that he loved her, that if she did this, he'd make sure she'd be out in no time. And all the while, David had other plans. He was having an affair with Patty, his wife's teenage sister. They had even plotted to kill Linda together, but instead of doing it himself, David had groomed his own daughter to take the fall. It wasn't just a murder, it was psychological warfare. Cinnamon, broken, manipulated, and terrified, was a child used as a weapon by the person she trusted most. Years later, she agreed to testify against her father in exchange for a reduced sentence. David Brown was arrested, tried, and convicted of murder and conspiracy. He was sentenced to life in prison. The betrayal ran deep. He didn't just kill his wife. He destroyed his daughter's life, his family, and his soul. Today, Cinnamon is free. She's changed her name and lives a quiet, private life. But the scars, they never really go away. So, what can we learn from this? Safety and awareness. What this case teaches us about hidden abuse and covert manipulation. This case isn't just a tragedy. It's a warning about the kinds of manipulation that don't leave bruises, but can still destroy lives. 1. Covert manipulation often comes from those closest to us. David Brown didn't raise his voice or use physical violence. Instead, he used trust as a weapon. That's the most terrifying kind of abuse, when someone convinces you that harm is love and betrayal is protection. Watch for people who gaslight you, making you question your own memory or reality. Twist the truth to confuse you. Use affection as a reward for obedience. 2. Children can be groomed without anyone noticing. Cinnamon was only 14. She wasn't evil. She was vulnerable. Grooming isn't always sexual. It can be psychological. If a child suddenly starts echoing an adult's strange opinions or fears, becomes overly obedient or fearful toward one person, is isolated from other family members, those are red flags. Manipulators often isolate their victims and reframe reality. Children especially need outside support systems, teachers, relatives, counselors, who check in on their mental health. 3. The power of fear and emotional control. Cinnamon was taught to fear her stepmother and believe she was in danger. David created a false enemy and positioned himself as her savior. In abusive dynamics, this tactic is common. If someone in your life constantly frames another person as dangerous or the problem, tells you only they can protect you, makes you feel that you must choose sides, then they may be using fear to control you. True protection never comes at the cost of your independence or moral compass. 4. Family secrets can be deadly. The people around David and Cinnamon suspected strange things, but no one acted until it was too late. In families where dysfunction is normalized, denial can become a form of survival. But silence protects abusers. If something feels wrong, if someone's behavior doesn't add up, it's okay to speak up. 5. Signs of manipulative abuse in adults. If you or someone you know is in a relationship with someone who plays the victim constantly, blames others for every problem, charms others while mistreating those closest to them, creates chaos and confusion on purpose, it may be emotional abuse. These signs are especially important when children are involved. 6. Always report suspicious dynamics involving minors. Teachers, neighbors, relatives, even family friends. If you suspect a child is being manipulated, groomed, or emotionally abused, even without physical signs, report it. Early intervention saves lives. 7. Emotional grooming can lead to criminal acts. This case proves that with enough influence, even a child can be convinced to do the unthinkable. Prevention starts with awareness, education, and open communication. Don't assume a child would never. Ask, listen, observe. 8. Check in on family members who seem to be too good. People like David Brown are often charismatic, charming, generous, but their goodness only exists when people obey them. If you know someone who seems too perfect, but their partner or kids always seem anxious or distant, don't ignore that imbalance. Final words. Linda Bailey Brown lost her life. Cinnamon Brown lost her childhood. All because the people around them didn't know what manipulation looks like behind closed doors. If this video opened your eyes, please share it. These stories aren't just tragic, they're reminders. Check on your loved ones, teach your children about emotional boundaries, and never ignore your gut when something feels off. Sometimes evil doesn't look like a monster. It looks like a father, a husband, a man with a soft smile and big promises. If you're in a home where you feel unsafe, manipulated, or controlled, speak up. It doesn't matter how charming someone is. Pay attention to behavior, not just words. And parents, listen to your children. Watch for changes in their mood, their friends, their fears. Children don't always say what's wrong, but they show it. If someone you love suddenly becomes isolated, paranoid, or too eager to please, don't dismiss it. Ask questions. Get help. Because sometimes the real danger is already inside the house. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you or opened your eyes in any way, please consider subscribing. Stay aware. Stay safe.